28th United Nations Climate Change Conference COP28 is all set to begin in the UAE on 30th November. Now, after debating for decades, the upcoming COP28 could finally set the ball rolling on a very crucial fund, that is the Loss and Damage Fund. But operationalizing this fund is likely to be the biggest challenge at this climate summit, with the rich and poor countries still sparring over on who is likely to pay for this fund. Now, set up at Egypt's Sharm el-Sheikh last year, this fund is expected to help the most vulnerable countries who are facing severe impacts of climate change like floods and other disasters. After 5 rounds of rocky negotiations, and transitional committee finally reached a consensus in Abu Dhabi with a set of recommendations which will be discussed at this climate summit. But crucial questions still remain. Now, this fund is expected to be hosted by the World Bank with an independent secretariat to monitor it and governed by a 26-member board, which will have 12 members from the developed countries. But it's still unclear which countries will be eligible to access it and who will eventually pay. It's not the World Bank money, just that there is a World Bank trustee and a banker. But the money is the fund's money, and the board can set up its own eligibility and rules on who gets it and who doesn't. However, rich countries are yet to fulfill their $100 billion pledge and remain evasive over any definite support to the Loss and Damage Fund. Under the current recommendations, no country is legally obliged to pay for the fund, thus failing to provide any kind of assurance to the vulnerable communities that their financial needs for coping with the climate crisis will be met. Now, experts that I spoke to say that the rich countries' budgets for aid are not really going up, rather they are shrinking, and they're double counting and reclassifying, and that is why this $100 billion pledge is also way out of date now, and we now know that we need $2.4 trillion per year for developing countries. So the Loss and Damage Fund is going to be a historic event at COP28 if it gets going. The UAE presidency is focused on closing this 2 weeks long conference with the first ever global stocktake this December that urges the enhanced ambitions from countries. However, experts say that raising ambition would remain an empty exercise without adequate finance to support it. Now, we do understand that the motivation behind this GST is basically for the whole world to collectively reflect and take stock for raising their climate targets. But yes, as we say, the biggest tussle will remain on who will pay for the climate finance. So meaningful delivery of finance, not just for loss and damage, but also for mitigation, will be the central point of the talks. India will definitely look to raise the unfulfilled pre-2020 promises made by the developed countries. A key part of the 2015 Paris Agreement, GST will be done every 5 years to assess the global progress on meeting climate goals, followed by a call to raise ambitions. The countries will be urged to raise their ambitions before 2025.